video. Okay, so now I'm going to start back over with the same spiel. Sorry if you were already listening. I'm going to have to go right back and get it started. So as I was saying before I accidentally took myself out of here, because somebody was coming. Diddy's alleged rug mule is going to take the stand today for his immunity deal, and the trial is going to be revealing a whole lot of dark secrets. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, the jurors in Diddy's trial, the federal trial, is going to hear from a close ally of the rapper, the former Syracuse basketball player, Brendan Paul. He's going to take the stand today. And again, this is going to be a half day. We're going to be here from 9 to 1. Okay, now Paul became embroiled in Diddy's legal drama in April of 2024. Now, after he was named in a lawsuit filed by Rodney Little Rod Jones. Okay, and this was filed against him by his attorney, Tyrone Blackburn. Now, you all remember, because Rodney had a whole bunch of stuff in there, a whole bunch of allegations. He was talking about things that were going on at the parties. He was talking about cameras being all over the residence, 250 cameras to say the least. And so basically, at the end of the day, that is how we found out about Brendan Paul, the alleged rug mule, who was in fact arrested when Diddy's houses were raided on March the 25th. And remember, he was at the Opelika airport with Diddy. Hey, beloved, okay, I accidentally messed up the video because I saw somebody coming, so I had to start over. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, now, mind you, as I was saying, Paul was given immunity in exchange for his testimony in Diddy's case. And honey, he's going to come here and spill all the tea. I can't wait to hear what he has to say. Okay, now, Nicole Blank Becker explained that Paul may be a crucial witness to the government as they attempt to tie up all the loose ends and just wrap up their case against Diddy. Because it's getting down to the wire right now. We just have a few days left and it's going to be a wrap. The question is, how long would it take for the jury to deliberate and come back with a verdict? Okay? Now, in this particular case, why Brendan Paul may be important as a key player is because he allegedly is one of the individuals who supplied the rugs. Okay? This is what Becker says. Now, the distribution of the rugs that were given to other people to make them intoxicated and possibly to do, make them do more than they would normally do, and to make them more complicit with engaging in the freak-offs, the Wild King nights, and the hotel nights, okay? And so like I was saying, when people say that, oh, this was all consensual, the people were saying they agreed to it, the text messages said they enjoyed it or whatever, at the end of the day, sometimes they were doing these things because they were given copious amounts of illegal substances. That's the government's argument. They're saying that, oh, it wasn't just about Diddy taking these rugs for himself. It wasn't about him just having a personal stash. Because when you think about all of the substances that he had, the ketamine, the Molly, the ecstasy, the Coca-Cola, the mushrooms, I mean, he had so much stuff, Percocets and all of that. Was all that just for him? And didn't one of the S workers, in fact, testify to the fact that there were rugs, illegal substances all over the table? They were offered to him as well, but he didn't want to take any. And then we have the people saying, the two women, Jane, Joe, and Cassie, were saying that they would be given these things to get them in the mood and make them compliant with what Diddy wanted them to do. Okay? So with that all being said, the distribution of the rugs being given to other people, making them intoxicated, that is part of a predicate felony, okay? Now, so in other words, basically, in order to prove the particular charge of racketeering, there's got to be a number of other felonies that can be connected, okay? This is what the attorney is saying. So whether it's connected to the coercion of the women, and or they indicated that how Diddy would bring in the escorts, okay, and offer them the rugs as well. So they're saying all of this is connected and tied to the predicate act that involved these illegal substances that Brendan Paul was supposedly supplying. Now, that's one way to prove a predicate, she says. You have to prove two of them. Okay, so, and remember, I told you this before, you have to have two predicate crimes committed within a span of 10 years. And they've already got more than two, okay? So with that all being said, she says, you have to prove two of them. So another way to prove a predicate felony is to bring in the guy who supposedly is the one who was supplying the illegal substances for P. Diddy and his people, okay? This is what the government's going to say, that these rugs were being used to give to other people, not just for personal use. Now, even if he wasn't selling them, even if Diddy wasn't selling them and he was just giving them to people, okay, that's still a crime, is what they're saying. So Diddy was charged with racketeering. Okay, we already know what he was charged with. Now, throughout the 2 weeks of testimony, jurors heard allegations of freak-off parties involving male escorts and Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. And the singer testified that the drugs, including ecstasy, ketamine, and Coca-Cola, were in regular circulation during the freak-offs for her to disassociate during the sessions because they would help her to take her mind away from it so she'd be more relaxed and more comfortable doing these nefarious things, okay, that maybe in her right mind she would have wanted to do. So Cassie admitted ecstasy made her feel euphoric and aroused, while ketamine made her feel disassociative. She said that Coca-Cola made her heart race, mushrooms made her see things, and GHB, also known as the date grape rug, made her feel drunk. Now, another ex who testified under the pseudonym of Jane Doe told prosecutors that there were times that she felt coerced into those hotel nights with Diddy, and that the Bad Boy rapper founder still pays for both her legal fees and her rents. And don't you all wonder why he's still paying her legal fees and rent? I have several questions about that. So anyway, Jane recalled alleged instances of abuse while dating Diddy on and off for 3 years and up until the week before he was arrested in New York City on federal charges. Now, Diddy asked her about coercion after he allegedly forced her to take illegal substances during having sex with a male escort. She testified about Diddy's alleged violent behavior and said that he once put her in a chokehold after kicking and punching her. Okay, she also said he slapped the taste out of her mouth in the shower one day, okay? And how she ran into the bedroom and locked herself in and he kicked in the door, all right, and came in there giving her all the smoke. Now, Diddy's criminal attorney, or his criminal defense lawyer, Tina Garagos, questioned Jane about the relationship with the rapper and her participation in the alleged forced hotel nights. And she was grilling her about that on the stand. Remember, I told you guys how Jane Doe got upset, started saying little slick comments, even cursed a couple of times. And the judge had to say, ma'am, could you please just answer the questions? So Diddy said Diddy paid Jane's rent through their love contract that they signed and agreed to. Now, the ex-girlfriend told the prosecution that she felt obligated to perform at hotel nights for the rapper because he had threatened to stop paying for her home. Okay, so for hotel nights, Jane claimed that she was expected to dress in lingerie and have sex with other men in front of the rapper, while Diddy sat off in the corner, okay, with a black mask over his face like a bandana, shades on, and no bottoms, okay, and holding Astroglide and Johnson & Johnson's baby oil. It had to be Johnson & Johnson's. It was very specific, according to one of the S workers. So audio released in Diddy's S trafficking case featured the rapper calling Jane Doe a crack pipe. Okay, that was his nickname. I mean, who's calling somebody that? That's real crazy, right? But it just goes to show how many illegal substances he was probably plying her with. So Jane claimed that she was forced to continue having sex with multiple male escorts after becoming sick. Now, Cassie said something about that too, that she was getting these constant UTIs, sores in her mouth and all of this stuff, and was still having to have these freak-offs. Okay, so when people say that they both wanted to do these things, maybe sometimes they did and maybe at some point they did. But who's wanting to have sex with multiple people 12 to 30 hours, and especially when you have a whole UTI, yeast infections, you have sores in your mouth. Nobody's trying to do that stuff then, okay? Please, make it all make sense. Now, that's just my opinion. Okay, so Becker goes on to say, now Becker, mind you, works for R. Kelly's defense attorney, okay? And works as R. Kelly's defense attorney, and she explained why the government might offer immunity to witnesses that the government wants to testify, saying that in Diddy's case, Brendan Paul was the 5th witness granted immunity, okay? Because then you had Jane Doe, Cassie, David James, the former assistant, George Kaplan, the former assistant, and Capricorn Clark, also a former assistant. So she says it's very common, especially in federal cases, that immunity is given to witnesses if they have the information or the insight that they need for their case. Now, oftentimes those individuals who are given immunity, although they have many crimes that they are facing or either have faced, they're usually a lot less in the hierarchy of crimes. So basically, they're the small people, and of course, the prosecution always wants the big fish. And in this case, the big fish is Diddy. Now, I happen to think that there's also some people above Diddy who have done some shenanigans probably doing the exact same thing, but those people have not been mentioned. It's like the people that were the clients of Jeffrey Epstein. We know that people were going to Jeffrey Epstein when he was trafficking people, because Jeffrey got accused and convicted of trafficking people. So did Ghislaine Maxwell. But ironically, nobody ever got arrested for being the clients who were in fact going to them to get people that were being trafficked, okay? So we know that the rabbit hole goes a little bit deeper, is all I'm saying. Okay, so anyway, please like and share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you in advance. Now, with that all being said, their goal, i.e. the government that is to get in as much possible information for anybody who knows anything. Nearly 6 weeks after the trial began, prosecutors indicated that they'd rest their case by Friday. Now, the rapper's legal team recently told Judge Aaron Subramanian that it would be between 2 and 5 days to present its case, a stark contrast to its initial request for up to 2 weeks with witnesses on the stand. And like I said previously, I'm so glad that it's going to be wrapped up in 2 to 5 days. I don't want to be here for another 2 weeks, but I just might be, because we don't know how long it's going to take for the whole thing to be over and then for the jurors to deliberate. Now, when jurors come back quickly, we know it's a guilty verdict. When they take a little time, you don't really know, because that means people are indecisive. They're still, discussing things and haven't come to a unanimous decision. So Becker noted that there were a lot of questions whether the government was actually proving anything specific to the charges that Diddy has faced, saying, yes, there was domestic violence. Yes, there was some relationships and physical violence happening, but does that rise to the level of what he's actually being charged with in this federal court? Okay, Becker says, I think at the beginning there were question marks everywhere. However, I think as time has gone on, the question is, what does the government do? Now, think about this, because a lot of people have said that they don't see that they've proven a RICO. A lot of people are implying that they believe that it's just giving DV and it's just giving kinky relationship things going on in the privacy of people's bedrooms. But what about the coercion? What about the extortion with Cassie's mom's money? What about the bribery of the hotel security guard? Okay? What about all of these things? Now, they added the arson with Kid Cudi's car, but they haven't proven the arson to me. Though we know that at some point Diddy was at Kid Cudi's house because the officer got the license plate to the black Escalade that was registered to Bad Boy. So they know that was likely Diddy. But that was when the house was broken into, when Capricorn Clark said she was there, and Diddy and his friend, can't remember his name, I think Ruben, broke into the residence. But as far as the arson, they never really proved that that was Diddy. But we know that it probably was Diddy, but they just didn't prove that, in my opinion. Okay, so now they just throw up witness after witness, she says. Although those individual witnesses have their own story, together they form what they're trying to form, which is this step beneath P. Diddy, who's up here. Okay, and these individuals, each individual person has a role in what they're calling the enterprise. Okay, so that's why they're saying this is how they're coming to the assertion that Diddy absolutely was running a whole criminal enterprise, because all of these people that worked for him, whether they were the chief of staff, Christina Coram, whether they were an assistant, whatever role they played, if they were doing illegal activities such as going to pick up rugs, drop off rugs, selling rugs, taking rugs to this person or that person, well, that's illegal. So that makes it criminal, right? So that's what they're saying. This is how they're building the case. This is how they've laid out the facts of the case. Now, Becker said that this was the connection that the government was attempting to prove to the 12 jurors. So she says, in a vacuum, if we just had the first witness, or we just had Jane, who just testified, I think people would be a little confused. Like, wait a minute. Maybe call him a bad boyfriend, a bad person, a bad husband for sure, based on what we've seen, for example, in the video with Cassie. But does that rise to the level that the government needs to get in order, that they need to get in order for an ultimate guilty verdict? She says, I think, like I said at the beginning, it was a little shaky. However, as time goes on, they're able to just put their different witnesses up and really shape what they're trying to shape, which is to basically, this charge of RICO in the United States. This time, it was not initially made for the purposes of the way it's been used now, she says. So listen, this lady seems a little bit biased, just a little bit, against the prosecution because she is R. Kelly's defense, okay? She's one of R. Kelly's defense attorneys. With that all being said, R. Kelly was hit with the RICO too. So she's like saying, are they really proving their case? Is the juror or the jurors going to buy what they're selling? Are they going to feel like this is all about a bad boyfriend, somebody who was, you know, not good with relationships, who was abusive, and who just, you know, was out here cheating and philandering? Or is this somebody who was actually committing crimes that are worthy of proving a RICO? Well, with the way the government has laid out their case and their evidence, the way the witnesses have come in and testified, absolutely, it's given RICO for me. And I told you all that weeks ago. Now, but of course, we still don't know what the defense has up their sleeve, okay, because they have 3 witnesses coming in, and one of those is a forensic psychiatrist. Now, I'm thinking this forensic psychiatrist is going to come in and just basically say that Diddy was under the influence of illegal substances for such a time that some of the things that he did, he maybe was not in his right frame of mind. Maybe he just wasn't, you know, competent or whatever. Diminished capacity is what I think they'll say. Now, remember, I told you that. But I think that, yes, that possibly this forensic psychologist will come in and testify that Diddy suffers from diminished capacity, or at least that he did at the time that these nefarious crimes were being engaged in. Okay, now that's just my opinion. I don't know what they're going to say, but if I had to guess, I think they're going to say something like that. Okay, so we're going to see. Brendan Paul's coming in today. He's already gotten his immunity deal, and he's going to be spilling the tea. Okay, now, Business Insider was talking about how Diddy beat one criminal trial after testifying. Will he take the same gamble again? Now remember, before this trial started, there were rumors that Diddy said that he wanted to testify. I don't think that's a good idea because the prosecution would clearly annihilate him on cross-examination, in my opinion. But they said that, hey, he testified before when he was on trial, and it worked in his favor that time. But see, this is a whole lot more complex, a whole lot more serious. And in fact, the stakes are a whole lot higher. He's literally facing a life sentence, 15 to life. And I think they'll give him every bit of a life sentence if he's guilty, because for the simple fact that they already offered him 2 plea deals, and he refused both of them. He declined both of them. So anyway, they say Sean Diddy Combs made a bold move when he testified at his Manhattan gun and bribery trial more than 2 decades ago. Combs, who is facing up to 16 years in prison or 15 years in prison on state charges related to a 1999 Times Square nightclub shooting, ultimately walked away a free man. Now, at the time, Diddy said, I thought I was being shot at. Okay? That's what he said. Turning the tables by playing the victim. Because Diddy's good at that. He said he thought he was being shot at. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Where did you hear the gunshots come from, Mr. Diddy? Okay, because at the end of the day, the only gunshots fired were for him and Shine. Were they not? That's what I always thought. But anyway, yeah, he was clearly playing the victim. Okay, he said, I thought I was being shot at. My hands were up. Imagine that. He said that his hands were up, okay? He would be a fool to testify, but I would love to see it. Honey, I would love to see it too. Y'all know I would run out of here so quick right after he got off the stand to bring y'all the tea. Now, but I don't think his lawyers are going to advise him to do that. In fact, I think they're going to do everything they can to keep him off the stand. But let's not forget that Diddy is a narcissist. And narcissists always think they know what's best. They always think they're the smartest person in the room, so they seldom listen to others. So we'll see how it all pans out. But I don't think he's going to testify. But like I said, I would love it if he did too. So anyway, they say back then the jury believed the hip-hop mogul, listening to his life story, laughing at his jokes, and ultimately awarding him an acquittal, a full acquittal. He said, God blessed me. So, she's my mother. It's a full-time job. When he was asked about Miss Janice Combs and about her profession, eliciting warm laughs from the female jurors. See, Diddy knows how to put on the charm. Okay, so he was up there on the stand in 1999, or when did they go to? It happened in 1999. I think they probably went to court in like 2001 or whatever. But he was up there on the stand cracking jokes, you know, just putting on the charm and all of that. That's what Diddy is known to do. Okay? And so they say if he decides to testify in Manhattan federal court to this trafficking and racketeering trial, now in the 6th week, he might not be as lucky. Now, his team of attorneys have yet to hint at whether he's going to be staying or testifying on the stand. But lawyers who are not involved in his case told Business Insider that testifying could backfire badly and expose the one-time near billionaire to potentially damaging cross-examination from the prosecution. Well, we already know that. That's as I said, honey, that's not going to work out good, okay, because the prosecution is on their job. They say it's a very risky move. This is what attorney and former federal prosecutor Mark Churkow said, adding that it would likely have to be a last resort. I mean, it would have to be like a case of pure desperation when they feel like it's all going downhill, okay? It looks like it's going downhill right now for me, okay, especially when Brendan gets up there and testifies. So anyway, he says that, he added that it would likely have to be a last resort, okay, a Hail Mary situation, if you will, for the defense to put Diddy on the stand. Now, Churkow says Churkow has handled racketeering and trafficking cases during his time leading the criminal division of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Detroit. Okay, he called it very rare for a criminal defendant to succeed in the way they envision when they testify. See, that's what narcissists do. Like I said, they think they're the smartest people in the room. They don't listen to reason. They're illogical in some points, in some cases, and they will absolutely think that they can outwit everyone in the courtroom and charm all of the jurors. And the fact that Diddy has done this before and it absolutely worked, well, he just may feel compelled to do it again. I think that he can run the same game that he ran last time, but it ain't gonna work, okay? It ain't gonna work. So if Diddy does take the stand, damaging new information may emerge, and prosecutors will surely revisit the most damning evidence presented thus far, including the infamous hotel breakdown video showing him kicking and dragging R&B singer Cassie Ventura. And this is what Churkow says. And that would be very detrimental. Now, the videotape of him beating Cassie Ventura will be one of the first items that they will use in cross-examination with him. And how does one explain that away? What can you say about it? Okay, you can't really explain that away, and if you even try, you're only going to dig yourself into a deeper hole. Defense attorney Michael Bachner, who was part of Diddy's legal team during the music tycoon's 2001 Manhattan trial, told him, or they told BI, Business Insider, that he'd be shocked if Diddy took the stand again. Now, Diddy's lawyers have already done a good job. They've done a good enough job raising doubts. This is what he says. And Bachner, by the way, is also a former prosecutor. He said they've done a good job raising doubt. Okay, so while Ventura and Jane Doe both testified about being beaten, they say, and forced into days-long drug-fueled SEX performances, which with male escorts referred to as freak-offs or hotel nights, Diddy's defense team has pointed to affectionate messages and exchanges with him. So basically making it look like they were complicit. Now, their defense is, ladies and gentlemen, Sean Diddy Combs has already told you what this is all about. You saw his emails and texts. You saw what he was saying, okay, contemporaneously. You saw what this was all about, okay? You saw there was a back and forth. So there's no reason for him to take the stand here. Now, Spencer Kevin, an attorney who has represented multiple accusers of late convicted SEX offender Jeffrey Epstein, agreed that by testifying, Diddy risked damaging his own case. Okay, they say the pros of testifying is that he will be able to humanize himself with the jury and possibly be able to try and convince the jury about the consensual nature of his actions. Now, the downside of testifying is the ability of cross-examination beyond the limited testimony that he will try to offer. The defense does not need Combs to make or to take the witness stand in order to pursue their argument that while Combs was there, or at times, he was a violent rug user with an unconventional SEX life. He was not involved in SEX trafficking or racketeering. This is what former Manhattan federal prosecutor Sarah Kristoff said. Okay, saying that that's basically what they would try to prove. Now, the defense was able to get the narrative in during the cross-examination of the government's witness. Okay, and Kristoff says that at the end of the day, it's Diddy's decision whether or not he wants to testify. You know, his attorneys can only advise him. They can't force him not to. It'll be totally up to him. Now, prosecutors will soon rest their case after they've called more than 30 witnesses over the course of 6 weeks to testify against Diddy, and the defense is expected to start presenting its side to the jury next week. The defense plans to call 2 employees They're going to be calling 2 former employees as well as an expert witness, the forensic psychiatrist that I told you all about. This is getting juicy. It's down to the wire. Everybody's anxious. We all want to know what's going to go on. And like I said, today's a half a day, so we'll be getting out of here at 1 o'clock. After Brendan Paul testifies, I will come out here at 1, do a live, and let you all know what he had to say and what we can expect for next week. Okay, so I love you all to life. I hope you all enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives.